Well, this Maclean's magazine asked, can passion survive kids, careers, and the vagaries of aging? Well, this is my passion tester. Let's see. Ooh. It's looking hopeful. It's, can you see that it's just a little cool in the studio here, but oh. It's not exactly bubbling. This is making me nervous. I know I've had better days. The testing is looking hopeful, but you know what? There's more to the issue of creating and preserving healthy marriages. Oh, Dave, I'd really like to see this doing a lot better.
I'm watching, I'm finding it fascinating.
You know, I'm sure by the end of this week, with all the good counsel I'm getting from Dave Carter, it's going to be a different effect. Maybe we'll try it on Friday, Dave. Dave is a sought-after expert on issues of infidelity. That has nothing to do with me. But I have to say, Dave, that close calls, especially, on that weekend away, I'm reading about adulteries. I don't know if that's a good plan. But I said to my husband, this is so tragic. These are, for the most part, Christian couples who never thought it could happen to them.
The aftermath of infidelity is always disastrous. Always. I've never seen what I would call a good outcome unless the couple stays together, works through it, and really kind of benefits from it. But normally it's very, very painful.
Torn Asunder is your other book, and of course the workbook. Many couples, 100,000 in print, many couples have worked through the recovery process after adultery. What hope do you give recovery for people that don't have God at the center of the process?
Well, God's a big part of this. And he does provide a lot of hope, and he does provide some direction, and he does teach us a lot about forgiveness, and forgiveness is a huge part of infidelity recovery. But the other part that's really interesting that kind of has surfaced out of the work that many people have done over the last few years in this field is the fact that you need some good history in your marriage to give a good prognosis for a positive outcome of saving the marriage.
Something worth saving.
Yes. This is not the time to build good history in a historically bad marriage, in other words. But you don't need that much. It's real interesting. There is some research out there to suggest that if, on a 1 to 5 scale, 5 being high, if you and your spouse simultaneously will rate your marriage at level 4 or 5 for about 20% of your history, and that's 2 years for every 10, you will have better than a 90% chance of recovering from adultery and reporting high-level satisfaction in 2 years. Okay? So it's not that much.
Hopeful.
But you got to have some. You got to figure out, what was our history like? And actually going back and putting your history together in a chart form and kind of spreading it all out, it's really a great exercise because it shows couples what they have done and where they have been and the good experiences they have had.
You ask us to do that in 5-year
increments.
Yep. So you have to reprint that chart and probably pull out the photos and scrapbooks and journals so that you can remember, what was 90 to 95 like,
Well, but remember when we talk about earlier, those old girlfriends and old boyfriends that infatuation just stored in your mind. Remember, you were infatuated with each other or you wouldn't have married each other.
Oh yeah, something drew us together.
So, that's right. So we're trying to trigger that. Just like you would if you went to classmates.com and tried to find out what an old girlfriend or boyfriend was doing. You still have that stored in your brain. And we're trying to fire that up again, that infatuation. And it does happen.
Now, Dave, you're at the church that Chuck Swindoll used to pastor in California, and you're kind of his go-to guy on his marriage cruises. You're about to head out on another one.
Yeah, at the end of June 28th to July the 5th, we're headed for Alaska. So
nice.
It'll be fun.
So your whole life is about helping couples get it right and keep it right. And another recurring theme is always regret for those who commit adultery.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's really tough to forgive yourself. Not only do you have to forgive your spouse for their behavior, but to forgive yourself if you're the one that committed the adultery. That is very difficult to do. There's so much shame and guilt and everything involved in that it takes real grace to let go of it and quit beating yourself up over it as well.
And here's a statement that just jumped out at me. The passion of affairs is what's missing from marriages.
Mm-hmm.
People say, it's for the first time I feel as if I'm alive and in love.
Yep.
So passion is a thing we need to recapture.
We can. And it's not just sexuality. You know, I've come to kind of compare it to a three-legged stool. And it's not that difficult as you begin to think about it. I was sitting on a plane one time flying somewhere and looked up to first class up there, and there was this older guy, must have been in his mid-50s, and he had this 20-some look-like chick sitting next to him, and they were just totally engrossed in each other, totally engrossed. They didn't give a rip about who was sitting around them, what was going on. And I kind of watched that for about 30, 45 minutes, and I thought to myself, you know, those people are in a bubble. They're in their own little world. And I think there needs to be times in every marriage where the husband and the wife enter a little world and shut out the whole world. And they just are by themselves. They're self-indulgent, if you want to say that word. They eat what they want to eat. They go to bed when they want to go to bed. They drink what they want to drink. They're just themselves, just the two of them. And they're just playful, and they're just like kids again.
Now, I remember reading early in our marriage, and good counsel. Even if you go for a coffee, you can't talk about the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds terrible.
Yeah.
But you say in your book, family retreats, reunions, times vacationing with children, that doesn't count.
That doesn't count. No. This is just the two of you. Okay?
All hearing us for each other.
That's right. Just here for each other, just listening to each other, just talking with each other, just talking about us. And you did that when you were dating. It's there. You just got to find it again. It's been encumbered by pressures and responsibilities and problems and chicken pox. I know we had 4 kids. I know what that kind of stuff's like.
I fessed up last interview about our first weekend away. And it's safe to tell you this. It wasn't even a full weekend. Late Friday night, and we returned home, I think, by noon on the Sunday. But walking up Yonge Street, holding hands.
That's it.
We walked up Yonge Street, holding hands.
Yeah.
We went into a couple of stores. That just created something that...
Couples have to learn to nurture themselves.